Good evening and welcome to our meeting tonight. This is December 17th. First, we'll have a prayer led by Bob Weber, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
In lieu of a prayer tonight, I ask that we bow and take a moment of silence for all the students and staff, families, first responders, and the entire community of Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. Our hearts are also broken. May God look over you. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Bray.
Here.
Carroll. Here. Henry.
Here.
Lubert.
Here.
Mahalovich.
Here.
Pope.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Schulte.
Here.
Scrivener.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
And we have a quorum this evening. First, we'll start with our public hearings. I'd ask Janice McMillan to tell us more about A, which is the TIF 5-year planning for High Street.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The revised statutes of Missouri require a public hearing for every TIF that's approved by the jurisdiction. The High Street TIF was approved on December 5th, 2002 by Ordinance 13346, so this makes it the 10-year public hearing. The High Street TIF district is located at 900 and 902 East High. It's formerly known as the Collin Mercantile Building. As I mentioned, the original High Street TIF plan was approved in 2002. An amendment was approved by ordinance number 13750 on July 20th, 2004. The amendment adjusted the reimbursable redevelopment costs upward from $100,000 to $147,482. The project and construction schedule is as follows. The public improvements that were constructed were a new public sidewalk on Chestnut Street. There previously was no sidewalk on Chestnut Street. Sidewalk repairs were made on High Street and also included ADA access improvements to the building. Street lighting, stormwater improvements, expansion of on-street parking, and the addition of a parking lot and retaining wall. The estimated cost for these improvements were $100,000. On the private improvement side, there was a demolition of 4 dilapidated carriage houses that were behind the Collin building. Renovation of this building into a restaurant, commercial kitchen on the first floor, and 3 apartments were added, one in the basement, one on the second floor, and one on the third floor. The 2-story galley porch and balcony were restored, and all oak and pine floors, tin ceiling, transoms, pocket doors, and walnut stairways were reconditioned and restored. The estimated cost for these improvements was $650,000. The total project cost for the TIF redevelopment area was $750,000, and that included the $100,000 I mentioned in public improvements. Originally, the developer requested the TIF financing for $100,000 over a period of 14 years. The amendment approved in 2004 reflected an increase in the reimbursable project cost to $147,482. To date, the actual reimbursements paid to the developer have been $85,692.53. The payments apparently began in 2005. About 58% of the TIF amount has been paid to the developer. And that included payments in lieu of taxes that were received in the amount of $27,288.06. And economic activity taxes are $54,464.47. As far as the financing plan for this TIF, the developer paid for the improvements with the local bank loan and is being repaid via these TIF payments. The result of the TIF, 7 years of payments have occurred. About 58% of the costs have been repaid for the public improvements. In 2001, the property was assessed at $20,000, and the taxes paid on this property was $345. The building was vacant for 10 years prior to this project, and the area was well known for vagrancy and drug use. The area was littered with discarded alcohol bottles and trash. In 2002, the appraised value is $275,000. The assessed valuation has tripled, the tax value has increased tenfold, and the site is now on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's operated as a successful restaurant in the Central East Side. Juanita Donahue is widely credited with kickstarting the Central East Side redevelopment movement. Staff wholeheartedly recommends adoption of Resolution 2012-20, which finds the High Street TIF has progressed satisfactorily and should be continued. And I just want to show some of the before and after photographs of this TIF area, TIF district. What you see on the screen is a picture of before the renovations, the Collin Mercantile Building front, and the side view from Chestnut Street. And afterwards, the facade was much improved, and the building was beautifully renovated. This is a rear elevations before renovations. You can see the balconies and porches are falling off, the disrepair. Afterwards, the rear elevation and the porch and balcony areas have been restored. This is a photo of the interior. It's a little difficult to see, but you can see the top photo. There's a lot of peeling paint and disrepair. And this is a photo of the interior, one of the apartment units. The new restaurant interior was added, commercial kitchen and all new fixtures. And this is the facade of O'Donohue's today. Sam Donahue, son of Juanita Donahue, is here. I would be happy to answer any questions, and Sam would like to make a few remarks as well.
Okay, first of all, let's have a motion to approve Resolution 2012-20.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Weber. Now we'll go into discussion on that resolution. Mr. Sam.
Excuse me. My name is Sam Donahue. I am the current owner of O'Donohue Steaks and Seafood Restaurant in Jeff City on High Street. I just want to say that we've been a family business on the Central East Side of Jeff City for 42 years. The family was very instrumental in cleaning up the neighborhood. We've got new businesses, Prison Brews, the Mission. Hopefully some more will come. But I was just wanting to make sure that everybody I would like to be able to get it approved again. Thank you.
Sam, thanks for coming tonight. I think I speak for the entire council in our city. Your mother was definitely a visionary trailblazer for that side of town. Several of us knew some of the Rollins boys across the street, and as you guys were doing that project, it was really great to see that come out of the ground, and everything that's done for the East Side. You should be very proud, and I'm sure your mother would be proud of what you've done with it since she has passed. Any discussion from council members or questions of staff? Any debate? Drew?
Did we open the public hearing? And I don't think if we did, we need to, and we need to let anybody else who wants to speak about it.
Is there? That was the beginning of the public hearing, by the way, in case anyone's keeping track. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this particular issue before the council would vote? Is there anyone that would like to speak against this issue since this is a public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close that part of the hearing. Going back to council debate. Any debate? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Bray,
Aye.
Carroll,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Lubert,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Pope,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Schulte,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
And that passes. Sam, thanks for being here. Next, we'll go into Bill 2012-113. Janice.
Thank you. 113 is a rezoning in the 1400 block of Karen Drive. The rezoning is 7.48 acres from RS4 medium-density residential to PUD planned unit development, and also a comprehensive plan amendment to show this PUD area as high-density residential. Associated with that is a PUD plan that is referenced under Bill 20-12-14, and that's the preliminary PUD plan, consisting of 6 fourplex buildings on for a total of 24 residential units on 7.48 acres. And this site is located east of Taylor Street on Karen Drive. This is the extent of the full area of the development, including the area that's to remain zoned RS4. Karen Drive is seen as extending from Taylor Street into the property. Taylor, or Karen Street in this vicinity is really more like an alley. The pavement is 11 feet in width and a right-of-way of about 15 feet in width. The current zoning is RS4. The requested zoning is PUD. Also proposed are the 6 4-unit buildings and 4 single-family residential that would be included on the areas that will remain zoned RS4. The PUD plan will limit the development to the 24 total units in the area that's shaded or in the green area. The fourplexes will be 2-level wood frame structures with asphalt shingles, and the units will have brick on 4 sides. The parking requirement is 2 spaces per unit. 1 space is counted in the garage. These units will have garages, and 1 parking space will be located on the driveway. All lots are shown with access to water line, sanitary sewer, underground electric, telephone, gas, new fire hydrants, and street lights are also shown on the plat in accordance with the subdivision code requirements. And a 5-foot wide sidewalk is also proposed on the south side of Karen Drive. Originally, the original plan submitted to Planning and Zoning was for a blanket rezoning of the property to RA1 multifamily residential. Planning and Zoning Commission tabled that, and the developer came back with a recommendation or a new plan to zone it PUD. While there may be some negative aspects that were noted at the Planning and Zoning meeting, the multifamily land use does have some conflicts with the single-family residential neighborhood. It does require an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Traffic and on-street parking demand associated with the higher density use will increase. But on the positive side, the PUD plan proposes a lower density as far as residential units per acre than theoretically permitted under the RS4 single-family residential zoning district, although the topographical constraints of the property would likely limit the ultimate density to about half that, to about 30 lots. The PUD plan is a method of keeping the density of development similar to surrounding neighborhoods while allowing for a different style of building and preserving open space. Separation distances will exist between the proposed fourplexes and existing homes in the neighborhood. And on the environmental side, there are some significant areas of open space retained. The area around these fourplexes, as you can see, are intended to remain open, and the trees that are shown in shaded in green are also proposed to remain, although some will be removed to allow for the extension of infrastructure. And another positive, Karen Drive, which is now a substandard lane, will be reconstructed to meet modern and current street standards. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended this PUD plan be approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the council? Tell you what, before we go there, just to make sure we do this right, we're going to go ahead and do a second reading of 2012-13.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 8.29 acres from RS4 Medium Density Residential to PUD Planned Unit Development for property addressed as 1404 Karen Drive, described as part of Lot 16 of Bosch's subdivision, part of Outlots 71 and 72, adjacent vacated Water Street right-of-way, and part of the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 16, Township 44 North, Range 11 West, Jefferson City, Cole County, Missouri.
Bob, I think you had a question?
Janice, I'm looking at this, I presume you provided this to us probably, this
That was
map.
provided by the developer.
Okay. It is showing the property that the developer owns extending into the city right-of-way. Is there an issue with, shows it extending out over McKinley Street, at least on this drawing?
I would have to take a look at that. I don't have
In
that
fact,
copy.
it's on two different drawings that shows it. I'm sure it's been resolved, but I'm curious how.
Well, I would assume that, well, the developer or his consultant can speak to that, but the assumption may be that McKinley Street would be, the request would be filed to vacate a portion, or vacate all of McKinley Street.
So is McKinley Street a through street now?
No, it's not. It's it's a right-of-way, but it's an unimproved right-of-way.
Okay, so there's no existing street there. Any
No.
plan to make that a street at some point?
I would think not.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our open hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for Bill 2012-113? Come forward for the record, give us your name and address, and please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Thank
Okay.
you.
My name is Shannon Block. I live at 5422 Aberdeen Way. I purchased the property about a year ago, October of 2011. And with future development in mind, I was really intent on maintaining the private setting that is there, with the tree-lined ridge top and the cul-de-sac idea at the end of the street there up on top of the ridge. And I think that's what you'll find in the PUD. Wanted to keep the footprint small in order to do that. It would be my intention to vacate the easement of McKinley Street too, to answer your question. There again, I just really like the idea of keeping Karen Street the quiet street that it is now, with the cul-de-sac at the end and not hooking streets together. So that's really all I have.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Block? All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in favor of 2012-113? See a familiar face.
Mayor Mike Bates, Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. As Shannon said, he purchased the property about a year ago, and one of the first things he did was take a look at the development potential. And as he got into it, he quickly found that there was some fairly severe limitations because, as Councilman Scribner pointed out, there's an existing, really it's not even a good alley, driveway accessing the property. This approximately 10 acres is formerly known as the Buell-Backley property, for those of you that go back a couple of years. What we did initially was stop at that point, visit with Shannon and meet with city staff, talk about the difficulty of development, and went back, and subsequent to that, if you'll look at the first visual, which thank you for allowing me to provide those. We do have those electronically, but when I'm the messenger, sometimes the message doesn't get delivered electronically, and there's some detail that often is hard to see. If there is anybody else here that doesn't have one of those, I think all of you realize we're more than happy to provide hard copies to any of the residents or the neighborhood. But the first thing I think Shannon identified was that to make this development work, single family or PUD, he needed to acquire 1323 Karen Drive at the corner of South Taylor and Karen. By doing that, it put him in a position to plat the right-of-way to city standards and build a city standard street. As Janice said, then those 3 existing residences will have the benefit of the new street. As we went through this process, we quickly identified, or his original idea was to rezone it, leave a portion of it RS4, rezone the rest of it RA1. As we went to that September P&Z meeting, we quickly found out the neighborhood was very uncomfortable with that. So we asked for a continuance based on the level of input we got from the neighborhood. We asked for 50 or 60 days. We came back in November. As a part of that process, Shannon sent flyers out to 80 or 90 of the nearby residents. They were mailed, and actually asked for a meeting to gather some of their input and make sure the neighborhood understand what he was intending to do. We held that meeting at what I call Riverside Park, Ellis Porter Park, on a fairly cool evening, had a decent attendance, and at least ensured the level of communication. After that, we continued then to meet with city staff and develop the plan based on essentially the concerns we were hearing from city staff. And those were as follows: parking, street parking, inadequate off-street parking, postal service, mailboxes could be a problem, building materials, architectural standards, making sure that there was a certain amount of brick on the structures, solid waste and trash. I mean, we've all been dealt with the issue of the small blue containers at the curb, this type of development. Does that mean I'm done, Mr. Mayor?
I don't know. What was that?
I don't know.
Oh, that was a 3-minute warning. You have 2 more minutes.
Thank you. I will hurry.
It's got the heads up from the press box.
Solid waste and trash. Obviously, we needed a centralized facility. We met with Allied Waste, and we are providing recycling capability as a part of that. The PUD zoning to limit the size and the number of the units. Stormwater, which we identified as being a problem for surrounding residents. Defendable space, which was a new term planning taught me, that there needed to be space in a development like this for people to be able to get out and about. And then, first and foremost, increase community participation and communication, which we tried to do. Subsequent to that, we came back, we reduced the number of units. We are very comfortable with the footprint. Actually the parking, we have on-street parking. We have a minimum of 2 dedicated spaces per unit, but actually we have more than that in the driveways. We visited with the postmaster staff. They are very happy with the layout for postal service. Solid waste, as I said, we met with them. There will be recycling included. The building footprint was changed slightly with the elimination of 1 unit, 1 fourplex lot. The subdivision plat was identified to make sure in the platting process that lot number 4, I believe it is 1 lot. There's not an idea or intent to sell off fourplexes as individual freestanding lots. And then stormwater, our staff actually walked the project site with city staff, and we think we've identified the issues that will actually give some relief to the neighbors. Shannon mentioned that he was more than happy to vacate McKinley. I do not think in 5 minutes I have time to go through all of the exhibits. Janice mentioned that by ordinance, the RS4 zoning allows for 6 lots per acre. Topography is not going to allow that, but it's probably going to encourage us to build on some of the existing right-of-ways that are not developed. We don't think that's good for the neighborhood. He's also made a commitment to vacate his interest in McKinley Street. And if you're familiar with the vacating ordinance, it basically goes back, split down the middle to each side of the property. He's more than willing to waive that, although as a condition of the zoning or the PUD, we really couldn't propose that because he has only ownership of half of it. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Janice did mention traffic. I would think conservatively, the last visual shows what we could conceptually do with a single-family subdivision. That's actually 60-foot frontage lots. I think the RS4 requires 50-foot frontage, and we actually think we could do the same number of units, or actually maybe increase that a bit and build some streets that we don't think the neighbors want and we don't think the city wants. So having said all that, I'll be happy to answer
Any
any
questions?
questions. I
for
realize I've gone
Mr.
quickly
Bates?
with 5 minutes.
Any questions to my right, to my left? I have one question. Sorry, Ralph. Well, Ralph, go ahead and maybe the same question.
How much brick is on the buildings?
One of the exhibits shows the existing St. Martin's development. The commitment was, and Ralph, it's in the PUD ordinance, that the front, which is single story, will be bricked. The two sides in the back will have 1 story bricked with only 1 story siding, and that's done to break up the monotony.
And I'm sorry if I might have missed it. How much square feet is in the unit?
I have that, and I will quickly turn to it if Shannon doesn't supplement me. With 1 single car garage.
1,300. Looks like a pretty nice development here. Attractive
One of the
units.
things that I failed to leave out, I have always been a big supporter of the redevelopment plan for MSP. My biggest criticism of it has been there's no place to live. We want to create all this activity, all these jobs. Right now, we have created, according to FMDC, 500 jobs at DNR and the State Health Lab. There's really no new places to live. And we think, and these are good jobs, they're not the highest paying jobs, but they're good people and they need a good neighborhood to live in, and we think this is a perfect solution. I will mention, I think it's exhibit number 9, it shows owner-occupied residences. So I'm familiar with Wren's Addition. In the late 70s and early 80s, the city went through an extensive plan to provide curb and gutter for these streets. It was done through the Community Development Program, and back in those days, there were ditch sections everywhere. That was one of the neatest little old neighborhoods in this community, and it was mostly occupied by seniors. And as we've seen a transition of that neighborhood, you'll see that there's a significant amount of rental property in those areas now. And we think this is compatible. We think this is a great place to be, and we also believe that as prison redevelopment continues and the redevelopment of the downtown, that people simply need a place to live.
I'll follow up.
Ralph, go ahead.
And there's pretty good demand for rental units now, I believe. And these would be some of I don't know that there are a lot of new construction projects to offer new apartments.
You know, I think the redevelopment plan that the city did a few years ago of the Near East Side, the Central East End, is a good effort, but the days of urban renewal, the housing authority, where we could put parcels together, that's been a long time since we've been able to do this. And this, to me, would be the largest residential development that we will find in that area for a period of time. I think it's, I will mention, we highlighted the block family development in St. Martin's. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Apache Flat area, the new Pioneer Trails. The Cobb family, we built 2 or 3 of these, and it adjoins Pioneer Trail subdivision right behind the school. It's right at the entrance to the subdivision, and we think it's complementary. We think it has far wide-ranging benefits.
Mike, as we look at construction jobs and that type of thing, what's a good base for what these units might cost to construct?
Mayor, I would be smart to let the builder, developer, owner answer that question. I would be making a stab that probably isn't very accurate.
You can come. You really have to come up here because of the mic. I hate to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to figure out if we have roughly 26 units, right? As far as economic development, what we're looking
24
for.
with 4 single-family lots.
Okay.
I think we said 1,300 square feet with a garage. So I'm going to say, I'm
He's
sorry.
behind you. Your voice just showed up, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, each fourplex building would cost right around $300,000.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions of Mike or our developer here tonight? All right. Next, we'll have second reading of 2012-114.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri approving a preliminary PUD plan for 8.29 acres of land addressed as 1404 Karen Drive, Jefferson City, Cole County, Missouri.
All right. Next, we'll open up our public hearing. First of all, was there any questions for staff or for the presenters? I didn't see anything else. Any questions of staff by the council? All right, now I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of, or excuse me, against 2012-114? That's already did the fours. Going once, going twice? Yes. Come forward, please. For the record, give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Yes.
I just want to, I might have got lost what happened. We first read that 113 and now 114. Is that what's happened?
Correct.
Okay. So those are now both open for public hearing?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Hi, my name is Karen Elliott. I live at 116 South Taylor. I live on 2 houses from the top of Karen Street where it's going into development. The Karen Street from the Taylor Street to Riverside is a very narrow street. If you go into Riverside down Taylor Street, Karen Street, you have to pull over for the other car to come by. 2 cars at one time cannot go down that Karen Street to get to Riverside Drive. Also, you have a lot of school children riding their bicycles in the summertime. They're on skateboards. You have to be very careful. You have to pull over and wait for them to go by. So I'm just another 50 cars, just one street going out of that development. It's not going to be enough. We need another street coming out of that development. I mean, there's Gordon Street they could hook onto that's right there at the top of Taylor Street, but it's just not, it's for the traffic, it's going to be a lot of problems, I think.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of our presenter? Seeing none. And next, please.
I'm going to say similar to her.
Could you give us your name, please,
I'm
for the
Karen
record? I'm
Wish.
sorry.
I live at 117 South Polk Street.
Thank you for coming
I
tonight.
live 2 houses down on Polk Street. This development they're talking about is in the 1400 block of Karen Street. There's a 1300 block that all of this of Karen Street, that all of this traffic is a residential street that all of this traffic is being asked to run on. And it is in a school zone. The 1300 block of Karen Drive exits onto Riverside Drive, which is a half a block from each school. That is going to be a number of traffic for our school children that walk home. They walk on Karen Street, go down Taylor and Polk Street to get to Houchin and the streets on beyond. And like Karen said, it's narrower. According to what I could get on the computer, it was 25.9 wide, no sidewalks. We also live on a hill. Polk Street is on a hill. It doesn't flatten at the top. Taylor Street is on a hill, but it does flatten at the top some. That's an issue already in the wintertime when it's slick. With more traffic coming on Karen Drive, with this traffic that comes off of Houchin and beyond, that make a shortcut that come through Karen and Taylor, plus the Taylor and Polk Street traffic itself is going to be even more difficult. Can't think of anything else I was going to say. So I'm not opposed to the development. What I'm opposed to is just having one exit. I really feel there needs to be another exit if it's going to be approved.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any questions for our presenter? All right, seeing none. Anyone else here to speak against 212-114? Tyler.
Tyler Woods, 2725 Cedarwood Court. I'm not really in favor of telling anybody what they could do with their own property that they own, but there's a couple things about the traffic issue that a couple people may have forgotten about. Karen Drive has one side street parking that if you start taking two lanes of traffic down there, you've got one side of the street that you can park on. I lived at the corner of Riverside and Karen for 4 years and got to know several of the neighbors, and part of the reason that 2 homes on Riverside Drive had private, not really private driveways, but driveways on Karen is because of the light traffic it had, because of the light traffic it can handle being such a small street. And so that's just one. The traffic thing is a huge issue. The second thing about that street is there's a yield sign at the corner of Karen and Riverside Drive where I know at my prior residence, it was hard to see around the corner at a yield sign. You could easily, and I've seen it happen, several accidents almost occurred at that corner. I think that if you threw in a residential multiple 50 cars extra a day that had to get used to that yield sign that may not know about it, you're adding that much more traffic to an intersection that should have a stop sign first. I mean, it should be there already, if not definitely before the development's there. The development's not a bad idea. The area needs developed up. I don't know if sticking 24 rental units in the middle of single-family housing is the way to do it. I believe that there's over 20 single-family residences right now for sale in that side of town within a mile from MSP. If that's what they're worried about is housing, there's plenty of it available to people. If there was other incentives such as Old Town has to offer these home buyers, that's really the traffic is my main concern. I don't really have a dog in the fight, to be honest, but I know I'm familiar with the street. I know how it is. I know how narrow it can get. In the school time, you got school buses. You got people parking on Riverside Drive's almost too narrow. You put a car on each side of Riverside Drive, you're limited down to one lane. So that's all. Thank you.
Any questions for Tyler? Rick?
How do you feel if they did have another outlet like the 2 previous people?
I think that would solve 85 to 90% of the problem. I think the other outlet is almost necessary to do it. There's just too much traffic that would be going that one way in the school zone and 2 narrow streets. Not only Karen is narrow, but Riverside, if you have traffic parked on both sides, it's really narrow. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Tyler? All right. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak against 2012-114? All right. At this point in time, we will close both hearings for 113 and 114. Clerk, we did have second reading of 114, correct? We'll go back to 113 and discuss that. Any debate on 113 or questions of staff? Rick?
Just clarifying, this is just for the PUD.
Correct. This is
Okay.
on the PUD. Is that right, Janice?
Well, you have 2 bills that
Can you explain what we'll be voting on 113 and 114?
Bill 113 is the rezoning of the property, RS4 to PUD,
Okay.
and the comprehensive plan amendment. And then Bill 114 approves the preliminary PUD plan.
Okay. All right. Dr. Pope.
A question for Janice. If you would review with us this zoning change, will the new street that he is proposing to put in from Taylor have sidewalks on 1 or 2 sides?
On one side.
And under this zoning, is he able to request a variance?
On the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yes, he could request a deferral, and that would go to the
Deferral.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
Then my next question would be to the developer. Would you please tell us, do you have any intention of asking for a sidewalk deferral? Okay. Good.
Okay. Councilman Scrivener.
Janice, we just heard some people express concerns about we just heard folks expressed concern about the width of Karen Street beyond this development. How does the size of this street match up with this existing Karen?
The existing right-of-ways are in the same width as the proposed. I don't know if we have something that shows that existing width. Typically on a street, depending on the amount of traffic it's going to carry and whether or not on-street parking will be allowed, that dictates the width of the street. So the minimum right-of-way width is 50 feet. And I would assume that's what Karen Drive is at where it meets Riverside.
And
so it's going to be the same width from Riverside to this development.
Okay, so it'll be the same width all the way along, although there will be a sidewalk along the new section, but there is no sidewalk along the old section.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Right.
Is there, I guess since sidewalks are not always built on public right-of-way, there would be room to build a sidewalk at some point if...
There's probably room to build it there's probably room to build it on right-of-way. The city or property owners could petition to have those improvements on the rest of the
And is there
street.
parking on one side now or parking on both sides now?
One side.
One side.
But that will be examined. We could ask the Transportation and Traffic Commission to look at that. And the same with the yield stop sign condition at Riverside and Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Carrie?
Thank you. Janice, how did planning and zoning address the concerns of the residents with the Karen Drive? And also wanted to mention the stop sign and yield, and it sounds like you would definitely study that further at Traffic and Transportation, but because I know at the last meeting, Eric Barron stated that really not having the connector streets is a benefit because that was actually more of a positive to this particular development. So how would you, I guess, alleviate their concerns? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, any increase in traffic is generally seen as a concern from the neighborhood, but the fact of the matter is city streets are built to handle city traffic, so there's really no concern from the planning or public works side. The streets are going to be able to carry the traffic. But yes, there will be an increase in traffic. And if the condition is such that during peak hour, if there's a problem with the traffic passing parked vehicles, then the Transportation and Traffic Commission will be petitioned to take a look at removing the on-street parking. That's how we handle traffic issues.
Carrie, did you have a follow-up? Okay, Bob?
One of the things that I always look at when people express concern about traffic, I can't help but think about West McCarty Street and about the number of cars that travel on that street every day, and the fact that there is parking on both sides. And I think that's just a 50-foot street. I can't believe it'd be any more than that. And you're talking about thousands of cars a day that go through there. And so while I understand and sympathize with people's concerns about traffic, as you say, city streets are built to handle traffic, and 50 cars is not a lot of cars in the grand scheme of things.
Okay. I think Councilman Mahalovich was first.
The Exhibit 10, I think, is pretty telling. I think if we were addressing Exhibit 10, we'd be in a lot different position with quite a bit more traffic. And then you'd have to open up McKinley and Pierce Street, which I don't think that would be in favor of probably the residents in that area. So the PUD, this particular bill we're voting on, is a superior plan. The debate whether or not you want to proceed with the next bill is a little different question. But this is going to protect the residents, this particular bill, because the PUD will limit the size at which this developer could plot out the property. Now, if you're concerned about traffic as I see it, and you wish that it be opened up, you're going to introduce more people into the debate, which will add, I think, further complexity to this proposal. I did attend the first P&Z meeting where the developer, I thought, backed off and heard the public comment and chose to go the PUD route, which I think was more in tune with the public concerns. I did not attend the meeting which it was voted on. Councilman Lubert took my position, and I think he has a few comments as well.
Mr. Lubert.
From the plat, it seems that Gordon Street is so close, and I know there's some pretty hidebound restriction to opening that, but what is it exactly that Gordon Street can't be opened?
If you look at your Exhibit 1 that the developer provided you, you can see the cul-de-sac at Gordon Drive up in that vicinity. And there's actually, it's actually private property that abuts that right-of-way. So we would have to obtain property from those two owners at the end of Gordon Street to punch a street through Gordon Street, excuse me. That's not, right-of-way doesn't immediately abut the right-of-way of Karen Street and Gordon. That's private land in between there.
Okay, Mr. Prather.
Yes, Janice, did anybody address those, talk to those two owners of those lands, just see if that was even a possibility?
No, we didn't. Staff did not.
Okay, any other questions or comments of staff? Any more debate? Seeing none, roll call, please. On 113. Thank you.
Bray.
Aye.
Carroll.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Lubert.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schulte.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we'll move on to discussion and questions on 114, which is the PUD itself. Correct, Janice?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
All right, questions on the PUD on Bill 114 before us now. Any debate? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Carroll.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Lubert.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Pope.
Aye.
Prather.
No.
Schulte.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Bray.
Aye.
Motion passes.